Hello, today we are going to be looking at a supply chain inventory management application and integrating Spotfire Copilot with it. So on this first page, I'm looking at inventory, and in the orders plot at the bottom, we can see that there's sometimes a discrepancy between units shipped and units received. Now, rather than looking through each iteration of product and distribution center, I'm going to ask Copilot to let me know which distribution center and product combination has the largest overall discrepancy and look more into those issues. So we see here that it is San Jose and Intense Mocha. So I'm going to go ahead and select those. And yeah, it looks like a lot of our months here have a pretty large difference between shipped and received units. And so to start reporting on this, I'm going to explain this visualization. And rather than starting from scratch, I'm going to have a generated starting point, which will tell me insights, notable points, trends, and of course, it's going to look at those big discrepancies that we're noticing and pointing out exactly when those are happening and what the differences are. So now I'm going to move on to the ordering page, which, as you can see, needs a little bit of work. It hasn't been completed. So the first thing that I need to do here is to calculate the economic order quantity. This is something that is required to better understand and optimize the ordering for each of our locations. However, I don't have the formula on hand, and I just specified that the order cost and the holding cost for that formula is stored in those document properties. And so now I'm asking Copilot to create that data function, and when I open up the data function properties window, I can see that it has not been registered until I click Create Data Function. I'm just taking a look and making sure that everything looks good to me, the generated code, as well as the pre-populated input and output parameters. I'm just going to go ahead and trust that created function, and now I can set up my parameters. So I'm going to choose the column that shows the annual demand, and again, I'm going to point to those document properties for order cost and holding cost. And finally, I'm going to have my output be an additional column to that original data table. And so now that is calculating under the hood. And if we go into our data canvas, we'll be able to see the results of our data function. We see it all hooked up here. We've created that economic order quantity column, and that column has now been added to our original data table. So now let's go ahead and visualize both our economic order quantity and safety stock values for each of our products in a particular location. So I'm just saying create a combination chart with the SKU as the x-axis, and then we're going to have two series, one for average safety stock and one for average economic order quantity. So that combination chart gets created. I'm just going to play around with a couple things. I want to make sure that the economic order quantity is presented as a line series, not a bar series. And I'm just going to make sure that the appropriate marking limit is set so that we are looking specifically at that for San Jose, which we've marked on the left. And now finally, those document properties on the top right for maximum lead time and average lead time are currently empty, and we need to fill those in to just adjust our combination chart that we've created. So I asked Copilot what those values are, and I filled those in. And as you can see, our combination chart will automatically adjust accordingly. Now, finally, I want to look at the transportation page. So because we saw a pretty big difference between number of units shipped and received for the San Jose location, especially the product Intense Mocha, I want to take a broader look at the different carriers and see how they are performing. So first, I want to create a visualization that shows the average difference between units shipped and received per carrier and understand how many missing units we see on average for each carrier. So it looks like with Northwest Roadways, they're on average having the highest number of missing units, whereas National Shipping is doing much better and having the lowest number of missing units. I also want to do the same thing, except this time with delays per carrier. Now, Copilot has automatically generated a box plot, which can be helpful, but for consistency on this page, I think I'd prefer it to be a bar chart instead. So I'm just going to ask Copilot to modify that for me real quick. So now I can modify it, and I have two consistent visualizations looking at the number of missing units, the discrepancies, and the delivery delays for each carrier. I'm just going to go ahead and change the titles of those visualizations so it's clear what each one is looking at. And I'm going to make some final adjustments, just making sure we're looking at San Jose, which is our location of interest. Finally, I'm going to explain this page to create a starting point for a report to look at the carriers and their performance, especially for the San Jose location. So Copilot has returned some key observations on the delays, the missing units, some unusual observations, and this is great for me to export and share again with my team.